men and give women of internet. I teach you how to graph and understand perfect competition. Now, perfect competition, perfectly competitive firms have a few characteristics, and I'm going to list all the characteristics right now, so all of you can take a screenshot of it. Just be right back. All right, I've noted down the key terms and I'm going to explain them one by one. First, we have the fact that these firms, these perfectly competitive firms, have many firms. These markets, they have many firms. The price of the firms are dependent on the market price. So if the market price shifts, then the firm's price will shift because they are price takers. They have homogeneous goods or identical products that makes them very elastic. That means that their production, their quantity produced and their price is solely dependent on what happens to the market price. So we see that direct correlation as we draw the graph very soon. There are no barriers to entry or exit for these firms into the market as well. There are a few things in this graph that we also have to take note of, which is the marginal cost curve, which is kind of like a Nike check mark like this. And we have a marginal revenue curve for imperfect markets, which I'm going to discuss later. Basically, marginal revenue is just the amount of revenue that is made by the firm or the price. So in our case, in perfect competition, P price equals marginal revenue equaling the demand curve. That's what happens in perfect competition. Now we're going to go ahead and graph this perfectly competitive graph. First, there are two graphs. Like there are always two graphs for perfect competition. First, we need to know the market graph, which is the supply and the demand. Q is B. Oh, we got it. We got the equilibrium here. All right. P, Q. All right, we got this. Right. So we also draw the firm graph, which is like this. We got the quantity, we got the price, and then we drag this line over here and we see the price, right? And then here we mark it as P equals MR equals D because the price equals the marginal revenue equaling the demand. Then we draw our Nike check mark here, which is, actually that's not a good one, but here, MC, right? And then this is our price and quantity equilibrium, our profit maximizing quantity at here at P and Q. Now, let's say if the market for Nike, right? There's more consumers that have a high income, so they are more inclined to purchase normal goods, meaning that their elasticity of income, the income elasticity is positive, and if that happens, then that means that the demand for Nike will increase, and that will cause price to increase and quantity to increase. So here, price. So what will happen is essentially we drag this, right, and we have P2, right, and that makes a whole new demand curve, right? So P equals MR equals D. Now there is a very important thing that I actually left out here, which is the average total cost curve. Now the average total cost curve intersects here is the ATC. It's the average total cost of production. So when this happens, when the price changes, your demand is above average total cost. But this means that you have a profit margin. So over here, essentially you have a profit margin here because you got, all right, this is your profit margin. You have this much profit, right? And equally that happens with loss as well. So this is profit, right? We got this, and we got our loss. So let's say if the demand decreases because of the consumers having less income, that means that our demand curve goes down. So demand 2, demand 3. All right, we got less quantity. Oh, I forgot to mark the quantity. So this is our quantity, our second quantity. That's actually an increase in quantity and an increase in price, which is the same thing we see on the demand curve. This is the second quantity. This is the third quantity. First, this is third. This is second. All right, there we go. So that's our third quantity. So now we have a P equals MR equals D, but this is 3. So 3, 3. All of that's 3. And then we have a new quantity at here. It's P3. That's how you draw perfectly competitive. Anything that happens to the market directly happens to the firm of perfectly competitive. Now, I'm actually going to jump a little bit and talk about imperfect markets. Now, imperfect markets, there are many of them. Let's focus on monopolies. Imperfect markets. All right, I'm going to set up the key terms and I'll come back really quick. All right, we're coming to monopolies. Monopolies are a single firm. They are price makers. That means they make their own price and they produce at their own high price and produce too little, making them inefficient. That means they're not allocatively efficient. They also have high barriers to entry, which restrict their competition. Their products also have no close substitutes as they are only pitching one product. So the graph for monopolies is, we got this thing, right? We got our price and quantity equilibrium. So price, quantity, and then we got our, I believe this is actually, oh yeah, okay. We have a relatively elastic demand curve, and then we have a MR or marginal revenue curve that can go negative. So here we draw our Nike check mark, MC, and let's assume that this firm is making a profit. Now, when they are making a profit, that means that their average total cost, or their ATC, is actually less than demand. So here, it's really important to draw their profit maximizing quantity and price, which is drawn at here. This is the profit maximizing quantity at MR equal MC, but the profit maximizing price is an equilibrium at the demand curve, which drags over here. That's their price. Now their cost is actually this equilibrium here, where ATC is intersecting the quantity of profit maximizing quantity. We drag that here. That is the cost, right? That's the average cost. Now, what happens here is essentially, the allocatively efficient point is actually here. So that's AE, QAE, right? That means their quantity is less than allocatively efficient. That's why they are inefficient. So this is their profits. And this is their deadweight loss. Yeah, so that's how you draw a monopoly, right? And so there is a really important concept to know here. If ATC below demand, then profit. If ATC, or average total cost, above demand, then loss. So here, let's draw them in a loss. So what would happen is let's take a screenshot of this first if you need these notes. But basically what happens to them in a loss is this. When a loss occurs, this ATC curve, this ATC curve comes up here, the price is here, the cost C2, the cost shifts up here. So this is their loss now. That's what happens. Now, yeah, that's their loss. So in long run equilibrium, this is what happens. The ATC is just on the demand curve. ATC, this is LR. Long run equilibrium, it's here. This is their point where in the long run, this is how you graph it in the long. But this is the loss point where it's just ATC2, this is ATC1, this is ATC3. There we go. So now we can go on to imperfect market called actually not oligopolies. Let's start on monopolistically competitive. Monopolistically competitive. All right, be right back. I'm gonna write out these key terms. All right, we're back. And basically for monopolistically competitive, they are price makers. They have low barriers to entry or exit, yet they're still imperfect, which means that they are producing below allocatively efficient quantity. They have differentiated products. That means they have some close substitutes. Like, let's say, okay, you got Wendy's and then you got like McDonald's, right? They got a differentiated product. They got a differentiated brand name. Like Wendy's burgers, they have squared patties, and McDonald's has round patties. Different in general, but they are still fast food restaurants, fast food chains that serve burgers, right? They just have differentiated products. That means they have some close substitutes, which means that if one firm leaves the market, that leaves more firms. Sorry, that leaves a little bit more, less choices, which makes the demand a little bit, what's it called? How do I explain this? It leaves it more inelastic, which makes it less elastic, which means that there are, less substitutes. So then there are few small firms. There are just a few small firms. They're not large firms, unlike monopoly, which is one large firm. And unlike what we're going to learn, oligopolies, they are a few large firms that dominate market. Monopolistically competitive firms are like your average startups. Those are monopolistically competitive. They got low barriers to entry in the field they're going into, and ultimately they make their own price. All right, now the graph for this is like this thing. It's the same from monopoly. It's just different in the long run. So you got MR, you got DQP, right? And then you got your MC. Sorry for the crooked graph, but here. So this is not a straight line. No, not a straight line. All right, there we go. We got P. Right, so we got, oh, well, that's not a P. That's not a P. You don't put your, no. That is not how you do that. There you go. All right. So here we just have this. This is our P, right? Because they're price makers. This is really important. Price makers. And this is their Q, profit maximizing quantity and price. Now, their ATC is the same in a profit, right? But in long run, right? ATCLR, let's just say the ATC, right? In the long run, they make zero economic profit. That's very important. because monopolies make positive econ profit in long run. All right, that's very important to know. Now, it's the same graph for both, literally same equilibriums, the same reason they're inefficient, because they produce below socially accepted or allocatedly efficient quantity. All right, now we're going to skip to oligopolies. So I'm going to note down the key characteristics right now. Police, let's go. All right, boys, here we come to oligopolies. Oligopolies are a few large firms dominating a market, like Samsung and Apple. They have high barriers to entry. They have restrictive competition because they don't want anybody interfering with their competition. They tend to be price fixers, meaning they fix their prices at something to prevent price wars. To prevent price wars. Oh yeah, they also have what's it called? Differentiated products. They have similar products, but it's like their substitutes can also change depending on the differentiated product, because what's it called? They have the option to collude, which is that oligopolies use this concept of game theory, which basically means that they have a certain strategy for making the maximum amount of payoff, and they calculate this using a payoff matrix. So in this payoff matrix, it's basically used to identify which company or which firm has the dominant strategy, and that they are going to do this action no matter what in order to make the maximum payoff. So with that, the other firm that is responding to this dominant strategy needs to pick just preferably the opposite one. So in a Nash, with oligopolistic firms, it's normally the decision for both firms that ensures that they make the maximum profit, right, for both firms. So that's what price fixing is. It's to find the Nash, to find the perfect price to set all of your products to, so you could, not all of your products, but your most recent products, to be able to make the maximum profit off of those products. Now, in the long run, I think these are zero economic profit. Again, yeah, they are zero economic profit in the long run. But aside from that, they have the same graph from monopolistically competitive, where they make zero economic profit in the long run. They got the the crooked line, boy. That's we got the MR, we got the D, we got the demand, we got the MC curve, we got the profit maximizing quantity and price. The price is supposed to be up here. I'm sorry, I drew the demand curve weird, but it's price and quantity, and then we got the ATC again, average total cost curve, assuming they are positive. Assuming positive econ profit. Now, normally firms should shut down if their average total, firms should shut down if their price is less, if their market price is less than their average total cost. That is the scenario in which they should shut down. I think I've covered all the most important things for this unit. I will cover economic profit, normal profit, and all of those in another video for further clarification. Thank you for listening to Caveman Math. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.